What is up, YouTube? Sports fans, racing fans, all of the above. We are finally back. It has been a long 3 weeks, but we are ready to go back in action. Yes, we still do the show. Um, my work schedule has been crazy recently, so I have been absolutely the reason we haven't done any episodes in 3 weeks. But we are back, like I said, me and my guy Vic here with some sideline chatter with Vic, episode 12. Let's get right into it because we haven't been here for 3 weeks. We have missed a ton. We are going to start here with some NASCAR. So, dating back all the way to Phoenix 3 long weeks ago, what do you got for me, Vic? How are you feeling about the Phoenix results? I was a very happy man.
Well, I think it was surprising to see how the option tire worked, how well the softer tires were with the next gen car, how much faster they were, and I love the disparity between drivers between like if they ran the regulars or the softs because you would see Ryan Preece shoot up the field from like 30th to third in like 30 laps, which is crazy, and a tire fall off wasn't really all that there. But as much of a story as he was on that day, Christopher Bell was another story. He took that third race. He three-peated,
Yes, sir, my guy.
and it was a great finish too. All around, it was a great race. Other than the Catherine Legg situation of if she should have been in there or not, we all see that can't just be a race car driver and just pop up at an intermediate like that and just think you can do it. I mean, it's good experience. It's good publicity. Um, Horrible for Daniel Suarez, who got caught up
Yeah.
in that wreck and ended his day after he was having a solid day. He's been having a horrible year, probably one of the worst years that I've ever seen in like the first five races.
Which
And
sucks because he's kind of on the hot seat right now, yeah?
he is very much on the hot seat. And it's not like he's not doing bad. It's just when you're wrecking and wrecking and wrecking and making mistakes, it all starts to pile up to those 30th place finishes. But we had a last lap shootout with Gibbs, Larson, and Hamlin, and hard, clean race in between Hamlin and Gibbs. Not making sure they don't wreck each other for the win. Kyle Larson thought he was going to sneak up. Josh Berry, he could have got came up and got that win if all else failed. And that 21 team had a great day as well. Chris Buescher, but the biggest story, Christopher Bell three-peats. He's pretty much solid. I think he's solidified as one of the top drivers in the whole NASCAR sport itself. I said this many times, and I told you that when you were trying to get into the sport, like, hey, watch this guy. This is going to be the guy. And so far, my word has been proven right.
Yeah, since being a Commanders fan, when I got into this here at the beginning of the season, I latched myself onto JGR, and I quickly became a big fan of Bell, even before he actually won his first race. And then to three-peat only kind of it was a very exciting start to my NASCAR fandom. But overall, I think I agree with everything you said. I really enjoyed the option tire race. It's a shame, actually, recently NASCAR said they won't be going back to it, at least for this season. I think that's a mistake, but what do I know? I would argue so far that the Phoenix race might be the best race of the season. So far, of course. We still have quite a bit of season left. Um, but again, being a JGR fan, that was an excellent day to have not only Bell win, but Denny Hamlin come in second. And mainly for me, I was locked in, like I said, from stage one to the very end with a nice little kind of photo finish. Having two teammates kind of duke it out there at the end. That was really fun and entertaining. I think going into the season, I thought for sure like teammates would stick together, so like in any other sport, I would assume that Denny Hamlin would kind of almost concede to Bell. I know that sounds funny now knowing what I know now, but it's like, hey, that's my teammate. He's going for the three-peat. I'm not going to try to take that from him, but it's like, nah, when you think about it, he's got to win too. That's his potentially not only, but only chance to win on the season. Like, you're going to fight for that. And they did. They didn't make contact, which is good because if they wrecked themselves, that would have been a tragedy. But it was a good, clean race. I don't I don't mind, clean or not. Obviously, clean racing is just more skill, you know, who was the better driver, who had the better strategy. You didn't have to necessarily wreck somebody to win, but also at the same time, that's kind of entertaining. So like I see both sides of the fence there. But yeah, overall, I think that Phoenix was arguably the best race of the season so far. So that's what I have to wrap up Phoenix.
It's definitely been the best Phoenix race in I think some years because they've never ran an option tire race there before. It's always been at
Hmm,
Martinsville
interesting.
or Richmond, and in both those races, the option tire race was a good turnout for those as well because they're both of those are short tracks. So it was like let's take it to an intermediate track, see what it's like. I'm just really surprised the fall off wasn't really there.
Yeah, I mean, there
It's
were a
really
lot of guys that were cruising through the poles when they swapped. And a lot, a
yeah,
lot of drivers wanted to save both sets for their stage three, so that was also interesting to see.
yeah,
Bell was
which
one of
makes
them.
yeah, it made sense because Bell had a the strongest car all day. It was pretty much, oh, I don't need to,
He smoked,
burn
man.
my, I don't need to burn my reds when I'm fast enough on my yellows. But then you see, got the lower tier guys like Ryan Priest, Ty Dillon. You see them use theirs a little bit earlier, and it working out in their favor. And then Ty Dillon, he was gonna have a top 10 day until he got that pit road penalty.
Yeah, that
But
was that was a tragedy.
but it really showed like the strategy really was a key factor in that race more than what people would assume.
I will say,
But
not a fan personally, but and we'll talk a little bit more about this here in a couple of races. But Kyle Larson is definitely he's definitely showing that he is also still very much so a top driver. I mean, he finished like third, correct? Yep, third at Phoenix. Not to jump ahead of ourselves, but he just got the win last week, and then he had a top 10 finish as well in Vegas. So he's definitely been coming on strong here the past couple weeks.
and
So
he got third at Atlanta as well.
yes, so definitely been one of the more, I would say, consistent guys so far to start the season. For a while there was Joey Logano. I think Logano still actually is the lap leader for the season, but his finishes, he's having some pretty rough finishes. So it's interesting how
William
that
Byron
winds
is
up playing
another
out.
one of those. William Byron is another one of those. He's like I think he's the leader in the regular season points right now. But he
Yes,
is
yes, he
also
is.
he's very much one of those like top 5, top 10 drivers like every week.
And then Josh Berry as well. He's had some really good finishes, including snagging the win at Vegas 2 weeks ago, which it was one of those things to where that was a very much so a neutral race for me. Like Chris Bell was definitely not in it down there at the stretch. I kind of knew that. None of the JGR guys were really in it. So at that point, I'm pulling for a Toyota. And the only Toyota that was even in the top, what is this, 20? No, Briscoe. Okay. There's a couple in the top 20, but top 15, the only one was Bell at 12. So at that point, I was like, man, Toyota can't win. None of my JGR guys can win. Looking at it, I would have been happy, and Suarez did finish second. I would have been happy with Ryan Priest to win that one. He finished P3, but to see Josh Berry won, I was happy for him.
It's a it's a good field story. Josh Berry is a short track master pretty much. And also this is an intermediate track, but seeing Josh Berry climb the ranks the old school way, he has to, win from the bottom ranks, and then
Yeah, that was
he gets a
nice.
call. He gets a call from Dale Jr. to get into his ride, and he performs very well in that ride to finally get into the Cup Series. Goes to the Stewart Haas Racing in the Ford, which was already a dying organization, to replacing Harrison Burton in that 21 to give the Wood brothers their 101st win. Is it's all just a feel good story. The Wood brothers, they've been around for 75 years or so. They're the oldest owned team in NASCAR, and it's literally just one single car with just a couple of the guys from the family that help work on the car and whatnot.
I
So
didn't know
it's
that.
definitely
That's great.
yeah, yeah, it's a very small team. So it's nothing like like where Ryan Priest got put into RFK, which is still a good ride for him. Don't get me wrong, that is the best spot he could be at, or like Suarez at Trackhouse. But it definitely fits Josh Berry's personality to be with that team, and I think with that personality, everyone just kind of gels together very well. And he's a very skilled driver, and it's nice to see the 21 car actually be a good car and not just end up in wrecks every week like it was with Harrison Burton. But
Throwing a little
it's
shade.
that it's definitely it's definitely a good win to see. I like the last 8 laps with the battle those two had with Ryan Preece creeping up because it was almost a similar finish to Phoenix, where with the Seabell and Hamlin, and then Kyle Larson kind of sneaking behind. A Ryan Preece win would have been great. Would have been his first win in the series, but seeing him consistently get top 15s even is just it's a refreshing thing to see.
His
And I know
day's coming.
top 15 might not seem like a lot, but when you've always been like, top 20 to 30, getting those like top 15 to 10s makes it even sweeter in my opinion.
Yeah, I would like to see him with all the him taking flight the past couple years. That's why I was really pulling for him. But like I said, like you said, I mean, it was nice to see Barry win. Like you said, a good feel good story. So I was definitely happy with that result. And honestly, I wouldn't have minded if Suarez won, finishing P2 with, like we said, how rough of a season he's had so far. So really, I found something to cheer for in a day that, for me personally, as a JGR and a Toyota guy, was a pretty bad day.
Yeah, this is not a Toyota track by any means.
No,
Like
clearly not. Clearly.
I know C Bell and Tyler Reddick are really good at this track, but outside of them, it's always been a Ford or a Chevy to really pull into wins at Vegas.
I didn't hate Vegas, but it also wasn't my favorite race of the season. And not just because my guys weren't there, just the track was okay. That's kind of how I felt about it.
It's getting old. It's definitely due for a little bit of maybe like a small adjustment. But your Toyota guy Denny Hamlin won a lot in the slots, so
That is true. And
def-
there were
def-
was
definitely
that the
win
race
somewhere
with a
else.
lot of mistakes in it? Like just a bunch of.
No, that was the race with Ryan Blaney's blown motor.
Oh, okay, that was because he did it again last week.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That was Phoenix. He wrecked out with SVG in Vegas. That's right.
Yes, okay. Yeah, he's had some tough ones. Coming to last weekend
Great
in
car.
Miami, I know I genuinely think, I mean, he dominated all day in Miami last weekend. And I genuinely think, I know it's hard to say that because anything can happen, but I really think that was his race to lose. I mean, it wasn't close how dominant he was. So to have a motor blow for the second time in 3 weeks is insane. The comms were just depressing. I mean, not like depressing, but like you could just tell it was just like I don't know. It's sometimes it's kind of hard to tell which one it is, but I think it was the crew chief that was just like, "You've got to be shitting me."
No,
And
that's Blaney.
that was Blaney too.
Blaney he's a known radio sweetheart, and to put it lightly, but he is a feisty guy. But when it gets behind the radio, behind the car, he's just saying whatever he wants. And then outside the car, he's like, it just sucks. We had a bad day, but we'll come back next week.
So to put this in perspective, how dominant of a day he was having, the second best laps led driver in Miami was Bubba Wallace. He led for 56. Alex Bowman was third at 43. Blaney led for 124 laps. That's the kind of day he was having. It was, like I said, it was absolutely his race to lose. Basically, what happened is what had to happen, I think, for him to lose. He had to have a mechanical issue or somebody would have had to have wrecked him. So that was just, that's got to hurt. That's got to sting a little more. I mean, obviously, you never want to blow up. You never want to have any mechanical issues, tires blow or anything like that. But you got to sit back and go, man, I was going to win that race. Someone had to wreck me to lose that race. And
Carson
your
Hocevar,
motor blows.
he looked like he was gonna have like a top 10 finish, and his motor blew up the same way.
Really, that was his issue too. I knew he had an issue, but I don't remember seeing what that issue was.
Yeah, his motor blew up.
Honestly, overall, except for those, Miami was very. I don't know the best adjective to use for it. It wasn't a very exciting race, but there was very little mistakes. There were, we didn't have a whole lot of. I don't know if we even had a wreck. Did we have a wreck? I don't know.
There were a couple spins.
Yeah, a couple little
Uh,
spinnerooskies.
Seabell had a spin.
That's right.
Daniel Suarez spun on pit road. Um,
Oh,
Jo- Joey Logano and Josh Berry got turned in pit road as they were making their pit stops, and they ended up making their pit stops backwards, which is crazy because I've never seen that before, and I didn't even realize that they could just do that. But with how Phoenix played out, or with how Homestead played out, it's almost like they played as like Darlington almost. And you haven't seen a Darlington race yet, but they pretty much ride the wall to gain speed because when your car is like with this much air between it and you shoot off, your car is going to shoot faster with all that air coming from the reverse side of it. And with recent years though, the bottom line isn't just what it is anymore, especially with these bulkier cars, how it's built, how the aero is. But you can see, this bottom line can still work. You've seen drivers, like Blaney, take that bottom line and still be able to shoot up that track full gas and still gain more speed than the guy on the top line. It's just a matter of how much you're going to hit that wall. Like you saw with Alex Bowman when he lost that lead to Kyle Larson, he tagged that wall once and he was
ah,
just magneted to the wall from 3 and 4, and Larson just shot up and took the last like 7, 8 laps from him.
I really don't like Kyle Larson, but he had a very good day, but a very strong finish. I mean, Bowman just blew it. That really is what it was. But even if he didn't tag the wall, honestly, I think Larson still would have taken that win. He just had the fastest car on the day. Well, other than Blaney. But when he needed to, Larson just seemed to do what he needed to do with ease. You know what I mean? Like it's like, all right, time to pass. I'm gonna pass, and no one's gonna stop me. Um,
Those two
so
are also Hendrick teammates.
they are teammates.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's those two, Chase Elliott and William Byron. It's a strong
Yeah,
four car team. It's a very strong team.
that's not the Pence team, right? They're Ford, right? With Logano
They're
in that.
they're Chevrolet with Hendrick Motorsports.
Oh, they are Chevy. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I knew they were Chevy, so Hendrick. Okay. Yeah, that is actually a very strong team because Bowman. I'm thinking of Cindric actually, Daytona 500. But anywho, yeah, it was a very I don't want to say not interesting race, but there's wasn't a whole lot going on. Guys were just out there driving. So
Homestead sometimes is like Vegas, where it's like if you have a really good car, you're gonna see the times between drivers be very off. You'll see them by like 3, 5, 7 seconds off.
yeah.
And when you saw him in Vegas, it's like, well, if one guy has the clean air, he's pretty much gonna take off with the entire stage at that point, unless a caution happens.
Yeah, I think so far I'm more of a I really like the intermediate races. Like intermediate, especially Phoenix with the option tire, I think provided the most. That's why I said I'm going to stick to that until something tops it. I think Phoenix is the best race so far. Um I think yeah, I'm definitely more of an intermediate super speedway guy. I don't know how I feel about the smaller tracks and I didn't mind the oval. The oval was okay, even though it's a smaller track.
Yeah. We're gonna
Um
be this week we're gonna be at an even smaller track.
what do we have this week actually coming up?
Yeah, Martinsville.
Where is that?
I think that's in Virginia.
Is it? Okay. Interesting. So,
Yeah, Henry County, Virginia.
looking at that, I don't know. I don't know how my JGR guys are gonna do, man. I think last week was. I mean, I don't think I know. Last week was easily the worst race of the season for Chris Bell. Just the spin, and even without the spin, he was really struggling on the day. Kind of floating in that bottom 20 to 30 range, which was very odd for him. I don't know if his car just didn't have it that day or what it was, but I don't know if this is the track for him to have a strong bounce back day. Um, but
He is decent at this track. He's not no slouch. He won Martinsville back in
okay,
2022 in the playoffs to win and get into the championship round. That was
that's
the
one way to do it, man.
Same year Ross Chastain rode the wall. And he like Christopher Bell, he's good on any track, short, medium, long, super speedway. It doesn't matter. Of course,
He's just
he's
that
pretty much a
dude.
talent. He's just that dude. He's talented in every facet of NASCAR that you could think of.
I know I need to start getting some Chris Bell merch ordered.
Definitely, his I saw some of the schemes for Darlington. His DeWalt scheme was pretty good.
Oh, the throwback one?
Throwbacks, yeah,
Yeah, that's sick. Hamlin's throwback because he's the sports clips car, right? Yeah. Hamlin's was pretty
yeah,
sick too.
yeah. His
But
was a not to Carl Edwards '99, which was really good. You know, which I do want to say the one that was really bad was Chase Elliott's. That does not look like anything like the car was, and that's been getting so much flack on Twitter.
I didn't see his.
It is bad. It is not a good rendition of a car because the car that he had was a Ken Schrader's 25 Kodiak, which is a very good looking car with the emerald green on it, the white, and a little bit of gray on it. And Universe decided, hey, we're going to run this scheme as a throwback, but we're going to do it our way.
That doesn't
And
even look
as
like a
a
throwback though. That looks like something
that's
dude. Yeah.
that's exactly what the problem is.
I typed in Chase Elliott in the search bar to find it, and the very first tweet I come across is a graphic that says, "Is this the worst throwback ever?" And yeah, that just looks like something
It's
you would trot
very
out in modern day scheme.
it's very very bad, as in just
I like
creativity
the
wise.
color scheme. I like the white, green, black. I don't know about that lime green 9 on the side when you got the emerald green on the top and everything else is emerald. Well, I guess it's got the like lime green line. Yeah, I don't like
Now,
the
as a
9 on the
scheme
side.
itself,
But yeah, I
like if it's
like
its
the
own scheme,
yeah.
that'd be fine. But if you're gonna do a throwback, I think you gotta do a little bit better job than that.
Yeah, that's like I said, I agree. I like the scheme just on its own, but that as a throwback is pretty bad. But yeah, that DeWalt, man, that DeWalt throwback is sick. And so is the sports clips, really.
I know Centric's running a Dale Earnhardt inspired number 2 card this week as well, or for Darlington. I mean, throwback weekend.
So real quick though, explain to me like I'm 5. Why do the Xfinities get to run a Supra, but the Cups are running a Camry?
That's just what they chose.
Really? Because you feel like the Supra is would be the top dog.
Over the Camrys, nah.
Really?
The Cup Series runs the Camry XSE,
Maybe I need
while
to get a
the
Camry XSE then.
well, I have a Camry SE right now, and I love that thing.
I've
But
a lot of people that have Camrys love it.
But I know with the goal for cars like the cup cars is to have them be like more like the street cars, just modified to be a race car at that
Yeah,
point and advertised. So like the Supra, you're not going to really see like a big bulky Supra out there, but you're going to see a Camry about the damn a pretty good size compared to like a NASCAR.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
if that makes sense. But the Supra is still going to be a fast car regardless, though.
Yeah, I want one. I'm not gonna lie. So, what are your predictions from Martinsville? Who you got? I'm gonna go with. Ah, I'm gonna stick with Bell because obviously that's my dude. Um, maybe Cindric. I feel like he's had a lot of really strong finishes, and he's kind of due. Kind of due. And I'm gonna throw a curveball out there. AJ Allmendinger.
After you've been ignoring him for like a couple weeks now, it's like, well, he might be up there. He got another top 10 finish.
He did P8 last. Well, no, that was yeah last week Vegas. No, last week was Miami.
Yeah,
Either way,
he got 7th in Miami. Fun
7th.
fact
Okay.
though, Allmendinger, he has like one of like the best averages finishes at Phoenix.
Really? I did not know
It-
that.
it's pretty much like where he finished like 7th, 8th place. Like he
Hmm.
just finishes good there. I don't know why. It makes
These
no
guys
sense, but
just
he just
have their
finishes.
that's just their track, man. He feels it in his soul.
Um, I'm gonna say Ryan Blaney.
That's a good one.
Um,
Especially after last weekend.
let's see. If I had to guess, I'd say Ryan Blaney. Ryan Priest would be is my
Oh,
wild card.
okay. Okay, as a wild card, that makes sense.
He's my wild card. Chase Elliott. I think Chase
Yeah.
Elliott's due for a good run. And last year, the Hendrick cars finished 1, 2, 3. They finished. It was Byron, Larson, and Elliott last year. But they ran their Ruby Reds, and I think Alex Bowman still finished like top 10 in that race.
I thought you were
But
gonna throw out Chastain.
nah, he's not really like been that well at this track
Yeah.
in recent years. Blaney dominates this track. He finishes all if it's not top 5, it's top 1. Um, Ryan Preece is pretty good. He's decent at the short tracks. And I think with a faster ride, he'll be better. And Chase is Chase. He's won here before, and he's pretty seasoned here, so I think he can get the job done too.
Yeah, I really like that Blaney pick. Like I said, especially after Miami last weekend, where again, I know I said it already, broken record, but I just really want to give him his props. If that motor doesn't blow, I think that was his to lose. One of the
Good
more
thing we're running.
guaranteed dubs of the season so far.
It's a good thing we're running a low speed track. His motor shouldn't blow. One thing to watch out for with Martinsville is brakes because it's
Hmm.
such a short track. And the way it's shaped out, it's not like a traditional oval. It's long curve because the way it was made back in the day, he wanted to make an oval at the start, but they told him he can't do that because there's train tracks. So what he did was just make 2 drag strips and then just added a
Oh,
couple turns in them. That's
interesting.
pretty much how Martinsville came out.
I might like this one then. That sounds like an interesting setup.
It'll be decent. No wall riding is banned, so there will be no wall riding.
Really? Why?
The 2022 playoff race, Ross Chastain rode the wall from like 10th to 5th in just one corner on the final lap because he had to make up 2 spots to beat Denny Hamlin in position for the playoffs. He gained like 5 or 6, but passed 9 cars, and it's a safe. They banned it because it's a safety issue. Because in between turn 4 and the straightaway, there's like a little door where you can enter and exit from.
Yeah.
And if your car clips that, parts can fly into the stands and whatnot. And he also rode the wall going like 150 or like 140, 150.
All right. It sounds
He
like
like
big ball
like
strategy to me.
like because usually in that turn when you're slowing down, you slow down to about like 80, 90 miles an hour,
Oh,
maybe maybe like 70, 80, 90.
I
He
hit that
pretty
bitch at
much
150. That's crazy.
he pretty much went double that, and they were like, "Yeah, we can't be doing that." A lot of teams complain. They're like, "Well, why is this legal? We can't be doing this." But it was a bold strategy, and Ross
It
even said
worked.
himself he doesn't want to do it again because if that became the strategy, everyone's going to do it on the last lap because it's the fastest way around. But it's a rule that is better outlawed because it makes it that much better,
I
and
get
not
the
everyone else can
parts
just keep doing
flying
the
into the
same thing.
stands part, but other than that, I don't know, man. I kind of like the sound of that. I mean, Larson rode the wall pretty much all race last weekend to a dub. Obviously, different track, different scenario, but
So like riding the wall in that scenario is a lot different. They're just riding the wall in the sense of like they're trying to catch air.
yeah.
Chastain put his whole car against the wall.
Oh, he was actually right, like to the T.
Yes,
Okay, okay,
yes. So like
that
his car
makes
was
sense.
against the wall.
Yeah,
Like one bad thing happens,
no
the
paint
car
left
goes.
on that thing at the end.
Yeah, pretty much no paint, but the tires still had air in them. I don't know how the tires had air.
That's a crazy strategy, actually.
So yeah, in that scenario, like that is a wall ride to a T.
Yeah, I get that. I still kind of like it, big ball strategy, but I get it.
Yeah, if this is yeah, he said he learned that from NASCAR, not like NASCAR '05 on the GameCube.
That's hilarious. So, can you ride the wall at all, or it's just banned on that track?
It's been on all tracks.
Okay, so you just can't do it. Period. Okay.
No, no, no. So like Kyle Larson tried this move once before. He tried it at Darlington, which makes sense because you're already against the wall. So he tried wall riding against Denny Hamlin, tried to pass him for the win, but Denny Hamlin blocked him, which also put him in the wall. But it still put him in the first place spot. Kyle Larson too. But they also did it in the old car, the Gen 5 car, which wasn't good enough to hold. Because it was more flimsy with the how the car was. I can't think of it, the body of it.
Yeah.
So it was never going to stick the way that this car does because this car is tough as nails.
Yeah, I've noticed that they play bumper cars out there and not a scratch. It's crazy.
So definitely the damage is it's minimal compared to what the old car would have done. And And by the time he got done, his tires ended up flattening out too. So
Damn.
it's definitely not a movie you want to see all the time, but like for the one time only, like it's fun. It's always fun to see that movie.
Yeah, I mean, being my first NASCAR season ever, I really don't have anything to compare it to, but I really do like the cars this year. I do.
You're you be on a small island in terms of the cars because everyone's complaining. The aero package. The Ryan Priest flips that happen every year.
I was gonna say, I like again, I have nothing to compare it to, but I do see it does seem. I don't know. You'd be the guy to answer this. Seems to be that there's a lot of mechanical issues every race. Is that common or?
That's gonna happen with any car. Every
Yeah,
car is gonna have a mechanical issue, whether it be like an engine, a brake. Well, yeah, which reminds me, the brakes this weekend are something you got to watch out for
yeah, you
because you
did
will
mention
see,
that briefly earlier.
yeah, you'll see some blown rotors.
Hmm.
Uh, I guarantee you'll see at least one or two because of how hard people are breaking into those corners. They're gonna overheat.
Are there any like I guess candidates that are more likely that you think that are gonna potentially be more prone to those issues, or is it just any man luck of the draw?
It's pretty much luck of the draw. If I had to guess, Bubba Wallace and Eric Grayson have had brake rotor issues before, not just on this track, but in like just like other tracks in general. Maybe Ty Gibbs, to keep his bad streak going.
I'm not gonna lie, Ty Gibbs isn't that good, which is disappointing. But man,
It's a case of when you're playing with, in this case, grandpa's money,
Nepo driver, man.
you get a ride, and you can't beat those allegations until you start winning. Like he was
But
great
he
in
was,
Xfinity.
yeah. I was gonna say,
He,
I know he was good in Xfinity, so it's not
he
like
has a
he
champ,
doesn't
yeah,
deserve anything.
and he has a championship there, even though he wrecked his teammate. And now it just feels like he had a decent start last year, but it's ever since I feel like ever since Pocono, he's really just been falling apart. He's just not really been the driver he could be.
He's never the worst driver on the track for the day, but he's usually somewhere between like P20 and P25, and that's obviously not good. That's like
Especially in some
below average. That's
JGR
like
equipment.
mediocre.
Yeah, and I was surprised he did bad at Vegas because that's his home track. That's a track you should be good at.
The one thing I'm happy to see, even though I heard, well, I didn't hear, I think you told me that he was JGR last year. So if I gotten him 1 year earlier, maybe I wouldn't dislike him. But I like to see the Kyle Busch fall off, man. I don't know why, but something about that guy rubs me the wrong way.
He's a lot better than he was before. He's brand new attitude.
I've heard that as well. Yeah, I've seen some of his old clips.
Oh my god, he was pretty much like a menace to society.
He was like the '09 Randy Orton.
Oh, 100%. Him and his brother are like,
Who's his
it's
brother?
crazy how like Kurt Busch,
Older or younger brother?
but a little bit older, not that much
Okay, so
older.
not racing then.
No, he used to race, but he had to call it a career after he got a concussion
Hmm.
because he was driving for Denny Hamlin, and then for the 2311 team.
Oh, that
But
so
then with
Danny
this new,
Hamlin took his spot then?
no, Denny Hamlin's still JGR.
Oh, what
So
do you mean he was
with
driving for Denny Hamlin?
like Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's team,
Oh, I didn't know Denny
because
Hamlin had a team.
yeah, they own the Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Riley Herbst cars.
You can do that?
They have a team, yeah.
But
Yeah, they have
no,
their
I
they,
mean,
they
like,
have their own
he could be
charter.
a driver for one team and own another team. Is that a conflict of interest?
It can be, but at the same time, he's like, at the end of the day, I got to race for my car,
Yeah.
but but I'm gonna give my other cars that I own a chance to succeed the same way I do.
That's what I mean by like a conflict of interest. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? But like, hey, I'm happy for him. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Is
it's
he
nothing
the
like
only
Brad
driver
where
that co-owns a team too?
no, Brad Keselowski owns RFK Racing,
Hmm, interesting.
but he also drives for that race team.
Okay, see, that's different. Yeah, that's fine. I just can't believe they allow a driver for a team to own a different team.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
not it's not uncommon because I know some drivers they'll own like the trucks. Kyle Busch used to own a truck series team until he recently sold that. Kevin Harvick was the same way.
Yeah, but again, when you're owning
It's-
a team in a different division, essentially, that's a little. Well, I guess they do. Kyle Busch still races truck series, right?
Select races, yeah.
Yeah. I think
But
it's
with
just
the new
different if
car
you're a
though,
full-time driver for a division and also own another team in that same division. That's just crazy to me. Not like a bad thing. Like again,
yeah,
obviously he's going to want to win. He's not going to give Bubba Wallace a win just because that's his driver. You know, he's got to win
yeah.
too. But that's still interesting.
But with the with how the next gen car was, when it first came out with that, uh, with it being so stiff, and whenever you'd hit the wall, you really wouldn't have like a lot of like absorption. But because NASCAR was like, we don't want cars to just wreck out. We
Yeah,
want them to have like a little bit of sustainability. But when you make a tank and you hit a wall, that's gonna hurt.
yeah.
And with Kurt Busch, like it didn't seem like the accident was that bad because he hit the back end of his car into the wall, but it caused like a major concussion in his head, to where like he just was like, if I recover, it's gonna be a long time, and it's probably not even worth it at this point. But I still think he works for that team directly though, under Tyler Reddick.
The injury sucks, but I mean, I'm glad he got to stay. Essentially on board
Yeah,
in a way.
yeah. So like when the team wins, he gets to celebrate the win as well,
Yeah.
pretty much. So he's always been a great driver. He has a championship. He's gonna be a future Hall of Famer. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a 2311 history, because that's how Tyler Reddick, he used to be in the RCR number 8 car that Kyle Busch is in. And then
Oh,
he got moved. Then he got the seat at 2311, and he's been
their paint schemes go
lights
so hard, man.
lights. He's been lights out ever since. Yeah, he also gets the Jordan paint schemes, which are
So
pretty baller.
who is that team? So it's Reddick, Bubba Wallace, and who else? Who are the other
Riley
two?
Herbst.
Oh, that's it. It's just a three-man team.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
three man team. They got the third charter this year for Herbst, and
Hmm.
he gets good. He got the ride because he gets good sponsorship money, but he's also, I feel like
He's a
I
good
do feel like
driver.
he is good enough. He is good enough to get that ride. Obviously, it's his first year, it's his rookie year. It's not really showing up as well, but I do think once they halfway through the season, he'll probably pick it up.
Wasn't he in the mix last weekend though? No,
No, no, he hasn't been in the mix all year.
really. Maybe it was just a stage. Maybe he had a really good stage, but I distinctly remember hearing his name popping up a lot during one of the races.
I know for what's it called? What's that race? For Las Vegas, that's another one. Is one of his home tracks. He's really good at that one. But no, last week he finished 33rd.
Yeah, he finished P19 in Vegas. Yeah, I don't know what I was. I don't know what I was thinking of, but I just know that there was a one race in particular. Like I said, it might have just been during a stage, but I heard his name pop up a lot. That was all.
But yeah, those are my picks for Martinsville. Those are your picks. Let's talk some NFL.
Yeah, we are almost 40 minutes deep right now, but that's what happens when you're gone for 3 weeks. You have 3 weeks worth of races to talk. Technically four, because we're talking about predictions for this coming Sunday tomorrow.
Because even off this, we don't really be talking much.
No, and we still have a ton of NFL to talk here, so that'll probably be how we wrap this up. No NBA talk, no gaming talk this weekend, but we'll see how it rolls. Um, so you want to kick this one off, or you want me to kick it off?
I'll let you start. You guys had a strong start. We're finally, waking up, what it feels like in the free agency.
So So at the very, very beginning of free agency, I was like very neutral. I wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't like, yeah, we filled a bunch of holes. But I guess we'll start with the re-signs. I feel like everyone we re-signed, with the exception of one person, was pretty much to be expected. We re-signed Zach Ertz. I like that move. We re-signed Bobby Wagner. I really like that move. Finished second team All Pro last season. I saw a lot of fans that wanted to replace Bobby because he's getting old. I'm like, look, only two guys were better than him last year, and one of them is on his team, and Frankie Louvu, who is also second team All Pro. The other guy, Bond, is in Philly, and he re-signed with Philly, and we knew they were bringing him back. He was the best linebacker in football last year. They weren't going to let him walk. So I understand that Wagner's getting old, but I mean, remember, London Fletcher played at a very good to high level until he was 38 years old. So I mean, at that same rate, you could, if he were to replicate London Fletcher, you can still get another like 3 or 4 seasons out of Bobby. But I do agree we need to get younger at the position soon. I just didn't see why fans wanted. We have a lot of holes on defense, in my opinion, and we still kind of do. I don't know why fans wanted to create another one, especially a guy that was second team All Pro. So really happy that we re-signed Bobby. Re-signed tight end John Bates. I love that move. He is potentially the best blocking tight end in the National Football League. If you don't know, now you know. And he's a guy that can go out and catch the football. He just hasn't been used a whole lot in that aspect. So will they start to utilize him more in that game? I don't know. Throughout his 3 to 4 seasons, I think 3 seasons, he has 61 catches for 592 yards and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, not a guy that's going to go out and catch a bunch of balls in 100-yard game, but a guy that can still be a threat in the passing game. So just because he's on the field, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a run or he's just going to be a blocker. So you do have to keep that in mind when he gets out there. Re-signed punter Tress Way. That makes sense. He's one of the better punters in the league. Some of the back end guys, running back Chris Rodriguez Jr., depth guy, but I really like him. Jeremy McNichols. He had a very good, strong season for being a relief back, so I'm glad to see him back. Marcus Mariota. I'm actually, this isn't a surprise to me, but I actually am a little surprised they brought him back just because he's not necessarily cheap as a backup, but I think he's one of the better backups in the league, and I don't think people realize how good he was for Jaden Daniels last season, just as a keeping his, head up type of thing, but he's a very smart quarterback. He's been in the league. He's been on several different teams. He's been the guy. He's been the backup. He's been fighting for the starting position. So he has a lot of knowledge, a lot of preparation. He's just a good guy to have around. So I was really happy to bring him back. Re-sign Sentinel Michael Dieter. That is a very good re-sign. Again, more of a depth guy, but somebody that you need because guys are going to go down on the offensive line. And then for the re-signs, last but not least, and this was a surprise for me, was kicker Zane Gonzalez, that I know you're familiar with, came from New England. I mean, he's not the greatest kicker in the world. I mean, they only re-signed him to a 1-year, $1.1 million deal, so they could possibly bring someone else in or have him fight with Seibert. I don't know if Seibert's gone or not. I don't remember what his original deal was when we signed him last offseason. They could draft a guy. But I think every one of those moves was to be expected. The big moves were the trade for wide receiver Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil, however you correctly say his last name. I still don't know. These are pretty big moves, right? Is Deebo the best wide receiver in football? No. But what people seem to forget is that we already have Terry McLaurin out there. And as long as Terry's been here, he's never had the guy at quarterback. And he finally has that in Jaden Daniels. And we saw what he did last season with it. Career high in touchdowns. Like doubled his touchdown total. Another thing he has never had is a legitimate number 2 on the other side to kind of take some attention from him. Because even with Jaden Daniels, we saw it a couple of different times. You double up Terry. If you can find a way to shut Terry down, in essence, there really wasn't anybody else. There were some guys here and there that kind of had big games, but nobody that could consistently be like, hey, you can't just constantly double Terry and worry about nothing else. That is what Deebo brings to the table. Excellent after the catch. That'll be huge for us. And then getting a true left tackle is huge, but to get one of the best ones in the league, it's interesting. He is a little bit older.
Larry Tunsil had a lot of flack for how he performed last year.
So here is the double-edged sword with it. He's a little bit older, 31, I believe. He is still production-wise one of the best left tackles in football. However, he was also the most flagged offensive lineman, I believe. If he wasn't number 1, he was number 2. He draws a lot of penalties, and that actually, if you look at his career, he's had a couple seasons where he was kind of clean for the most part, but he has quite a few seasons as well where he's drawing a lot of flags, false starts, more so than holding. But that's like kind of the thing. So it's very interesting that the Texans, who also have a legitimate superstar level quarterback, a young guy, um, locked into place, that they would get rid of an offensive lineman, especially when that was one of their biggest issues last year was pass protection. So it is a little bit worrisome why they moved on, but what I will say to that is, even if he's not the best left tackle in football or even top 5, he's going to be better than what we had last season. That much I am confident in. And our offensive line wasn't necessarily a problem, but they weren't great. And when you have a guy like Jaden Daniels, who is so elite with his legs as well, those guys, the Lamar Jacksons, the Jaden Daniels of the world, the Jalen Hurtses of the world, they can mask some problems on the O line. Now, Jalen Hurts has one of the best O lines in football, but if he didn't, guys that are really good moving in the pocket, moving with their legs, still making plays, whether it's taking off or whether it's getting the pass off after extending a play, they can mask some issues. They can avoid some sacks that other guys would absolutely take. So definitely happy to see them improve. The biggest spots for me for the Commanders this season were offensive line, defensive line, and cornerback. Those were the 3 big spots that needed to be. Well, and wide receiver was one, but we almost knew they were going to make a move at wide receiver. So really, those were my 3 pressing issues: was both lines and CBs. And to see them kind of make a move for a guy like Laramie, that was huge. And then the flip side of that was their big splash was Javon Kinlaw. I don't hate the signing. I think they overpaid a little bit for him. He's never really been a top guy. He's someone that Adam Peters is familiar with from his time in San Francisco. I saw, I'm not 100% sure if that is the strategy they're going to deploy, but I saw that Dan Quinn likes to run some particular defensive scheme. I think they call it like the elephant lineman or something, where you just have a really big guy that kind of sets the edge. He's not necessarily going to be the best guy out there. I mean, he's a DT, but basically the goal is to have a really big guy that kind of forces the offense to move away from that guy. So you're moving him. They're going to run away from him, which is going to push those guys into guys that you want schematically out there, rather that's Bobby Wagner or Frankie Louvu or anybody else. They could draft somebody. We'll get to that later. So we'll see how that works out for them. They got safety Will Harris. Don't know if he's necessarily a starter, but he's a guy that absolutely brings the boom. He has quite a few big, clean hits out there. So he's definitely a guy I think that'll fight for the starting position. Will he get it? I don't know. And then everything else was kind of some depth guys. They brought in Eddie Goldman, another defensive tackle. You'll be familiar with cornerback Jonathan Jones. Again, I said CB was a issue that needed to be addressed. I don't think they adequately addressed that. We'll see what they do in the draft. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. They brought in another DT
What
and
about? I know I'm
Wyatt
stopping you for a second. What about Noah? The Noah
Igbenogbe.
cornerback. Yeah, I did not want to
Yeah.
mess that up.
I think he's out of there. They didn't re-sign him. I think he was just on a 1-year deal. Did he sign with?
It says he's re-signed to a 1-year contract.
Did they? He's not on my
Yeah.
list. But yeah, I do
Yeah.
see staying put in his new home. So I guess they are bringing him back. He's not on my list for some reason, which is actually the Commander's official free agency tracker site. Did I miss him? No, I didn't miss him. Interesting. He's not on here. He wasn't. I like him. So bringing him back is definitely a good depth signing. He's not a guy that you're going to have starting out there. So right now, it looks like, well, it doesn't look like, it's going to be Marcus Peters and wait, oh my God. I'm on a completely different.
Marshall Lattimore.
Yeah, I'm on a completely different team right now. I'm thinking we're the Baltimore Ravens. Good Lord. It's going to be Marshawn Lattimore on one side, and I'm having all types of brain farts with our CB room because it was such a mess last year. And Mike Sanderstill on the other side. A lot of people wanted us to get a surefire outside corner so we could slide Samerstow back to the slot. That's what he played in college. I didn't mind him on the outside. I think he did very well. So those probably are going to be the two outside guys, and then it's going to be a toss up for that inside. Igbenogbe played a lot on the outside as well, but he can play in the slot. Jonathan Jones is absolutely, I think, a slot guy. Whether that's going to be their starter, I don't know. He has 71 starts in New England out of his 132 games, so he's a guy that has a lot of burn. But again, these are 1 year. These were short deals, kind of similar to what they did last offseason. So we'll see what they do in the draft. But personally, I very much am out on Marshawn Lattimore. I think they should have moved on from him. They could have cut him with no dead cap hit, saved, I think, 18 million. I think he's a lost cause. If he's not getting burnt, he's on the sideline with an injury. If he's not doing either one of those two things, he's fighting someone and committing defensive pass interference. I think overall, we're about the same at cornerback as we were last year, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem if they made substantial progress on the D line. If they traded for, Trey Hendrickson or, Myles Garrett, a real game changer at rushing the passer, because a good D line that can rush the passer can really help your secondary out. But they really didn't do that. Their big splash signing, as I said, on the D line was Kinlaw. He's not that game changer type of player. At least he hasn't been so far in his career. Maybe they can get the best out of him now. So I'm absolutely still concerned about the defense. The only other signing was wide receiver KJ Osborne, another Patriot, a depth guy, which I actually like that signing. Again, not going to be your starter, but a guy that can come in and make plays. So I mean that wraps up, the Commanders' free agency. They were pretty busy. Again, a lot of depth guys. You normally that's kind of what you would want for a team that just went to an NFC Championship game and won, 11 games. But there was a lot of I don't necessarily want to say luck, but a lot of luck. You had the Hail Mary, there's just a lot of different things that added up throughout the season. I mean, there was just in week 2, Malik Neighbors dropped a pass that he's catching 99% of the time. And that was the difference between them not scoring at all and them being in the red zone. And we won that game off all field goals. So it's things like that that just added up. I personally, and again, we'll get to this after the draft talk that we have coming up, but I don't think they're winning 11 games. I'll put it that way.
Winning 12?
So I really wanted to see a bigger push on defense, because at this point you're basically asking Jaden Daniels in the offense to hard carry again, which is pretty much what they just did last season. So we'll see how that strategy works out for them moving forward.
So a couple of names that I didn't hear you say that I wanted to ask you about that you guys did sign, because on my sheet we have different sites pulled up. Michael Gallup is one of them.
That is, that I don't know why that's not on the Commanders' official one. That is an interesting signing. I actually like it. I believe he's only 31 years old.
He's not that old. He's been around for a while, but he's not old. He's 29.
29. Okay, I was thinking 31. So he's one of those guys where he's on record. I think he said it. He had a down season 2 years ago, and he said he wasn't in a very good headspace, so he retired. He retired at 28. That's like right smack in the. Terry McLaurin's older than Michael Gallup. Terry McLaurin, they're actually very similar. Terry McLaurin's, in the hidden 30s right at the beginning of the season. They're about the same age. And you saw what Terry just did last season. He didn't slow down. He had the best season of his career, debatably. I like the signing a lot, actually. I mean, he's got to get through training camp and see what he looks like there. But if he can be 75% of what he was for the Cowboys, I think he's going to do very well next season. Not like 1,000-yard receiver well, but when you already have Debo out there and you got Terry on one side, you throw Gallup out there and just have him run a go route almost or deep post. That could be a problem for teams. Again, 29 years old, he's still technically right in his prime, towards the end of it. But that 26 to 30 range is a prime spot for a lot of guys, not just wide receivers. So I think that is one of the more underrated, I can speak, signings for the Commanders. A guy that, if all goes well, could be an X factor even. So
But
I do I like that a lot.
I know with Michael Gallup, he had a ACL injury back in 2022 after he
Yes.
had like a big contract extension with the
And then he had the
Cowboys.
down year, and then he said, "All right, I'm gonna retire."
Yeah. Well, actually, after his down year, he signed a contract with the Raiders, but he didn't play it because he was like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling it." I do think part of his retirement is because of that torn ACL. He's like, "Man, what if my knee never gets better?" And whatever else personal he could have going on, whether it's been like his love for football, his want to play for the game, just all that type of stuff mixing into it. So I do think it is refreshing that like you guys are probably going to get a 100% healthy Michael Gallup on your team who won't have that ACL trouble, who won't have to worry about second guessing himself. He's going to be a third option, but I think for him being a third option is better than being no option,
Yeah, absolutely.
especially in this case.
And again, it all depends on how to see. If he has a really strong camp, gets out there, maybe he winds up being on the outside, Debo in the slot. Anything could happen. So, like I said, I think that's a very underrated signing for them. It's one that has very little negatives, but has a potential to be a big boost depending on who you get. Like you said, a fully healthy version of him.
Yeah, like his 2023 season, like it was statistically his worst season, even though it was Dak Prescott's best season. Uh, they say that his lack of production had him drop behind the team's top pass catchers in Lamb, Ferguson, and Brandon Cooks. He only got 34 receptions, 418 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 17 games. Like, that's not good if you're going to pay a man 62.5 million for an extension.
Yeah, that was a hard fall off.
And that's not entirely his fault, I think, either. It's also just how the Cowboys scheme worked and how the other receivers just ended up having better years, in my opinion. But I do think for the Commanders, because I don't know what the contract would look like. I definitely not know 62.5 million,
Nope.
but
Let me pull it
I
up.
do think he will be. I do think he is a great addition to your offensive scheme that makes you guys even more scarier. Because Gallup is still that guy. I don't even if you remember back from those couple years from 2020 to 2023, like even though with the down years, he's still that guy you can trust to make those 10-15 yard plays inside 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. That's going to get you guys moving the chains.
Yeah, and I mean he signed the veteran minimum 1 year, 1.3 million. So that's why I said a lot of potential pros with really no cons. It's not like that was the only guy that they added. Again, Debo and KJ Osborne. So they added a couple guys, and that's still potential to draft a guy. So definitely, again, underrated signing. Um, who else do you have that I don't have?
Uh, that's pretty much everyone. There are a couple
Okay.
people that it just says is Trent Scott, Tressway, Klein Farrell. That's his name.
Yeah. So all resigns. I like all of them. Trent's got a good depth guy. Farrell is a guy that had a very solid season. Wasn't like record breaking, wasn't massive game changer, but above average. So I was actually another guy I was happy to see brought back.
I mean, it's also a punter, so it's like you can't.
Trustway, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, it's important to have a good punter though. They can flip field position. They can do a lot for you that people don't realize, and he's one of the better ones in the league. So that was a good resign.
another one, Jalen Holmes, Dietrich Rice,
I
Nate
mentioned Wise. That's a good depth guy.
Nate
Um,
Herbig.
yeah, again, all these guys are some of these guys are camp bodies, and some of these guys are legitimate depth pieces. which
And then
was
Sheldon Day and Eddie Goldman.
yeah.
Wow.
None of these guys, I won't say none of them, but again, depth guys, camp bodies. Very similar strategy to what they did last offseason, where they really weren't going to make any big moves. But obviously, you need to fill out your roster, and you need players that can play, players that are going to work hard and not just be there just to be there. So overall, I think a lot of fans were expecting maybe some bigger, splashier moves, considering the fact they made it all the way to the NFC Championship game.
I do think Tunsil and Samuel are like the biggest moves that I've seen in a long time.
Oh,
Especially because
100%.
they made those like not even like as soon as the season ended. It felt like
Oh yeah,
it was like,
they
all right,
moved. Those
these
were
are
their
our guys.
guys. Yeah, absolutely.
And I know you're talking about the Commanders fan base probably looking more defensively, but it looks like it's just a lot of defensive people that were already there got re-signed
Excuse me.
rather than like bringing in a lot of new people because you still got to go through the draft. You still got the summer free agency to still go through if people want to switch teams and whatnot. So I do think I do think for now, like you guys made the biggest moves you could make,
Yeah,
offensively and defensively.
I just
There's always more that you could want.
it was
Like
a
there's more
bad
also more for
defense
the
last
Patriots,
year.
but
It was a bad defense last year. So to see them either stay the same or arguably get worse, we'll see. They did let Jeremy Chin go, who had some issues in pass coverage, but overall, I think had a very strong season and made a lot of good plays for the team. Kind of swap him out with Will Harris. We'll have to see if that what that does. That could be an improvement or it could be not. And again, to kind of stay the same or arguably get worse is not good for that defense. One guy that before we move completely on, I kind of wanted to see them bring Dante Fowler back. Obviously, not a big guy at stopping the run, but I think he had a very productive season rushing the passer. And I don't really know if they filled that void from a pass rushing standpoint. So we'll have to see there. Um, but sliding into the Patriots, who I think had a little bit more of an exciting free agency, in my humble opinion. What you got?
we got a lot of money and we still have a lot of money to give out. Um, we
Obviously, the
released
big one.
the big one is Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Well, he's one. Actually, he is one of the big ones. We have a lot of big ones. You know, we got Devon. Man, these people have such weird last names. Gocho, I think that's his name. We traded him to the Saints, which was a crazy thing that Vrabel did. I feel like we and Jawan Bentley is another one because we those are like the veteran guys, the locker room guys, and I know like as a new coach, you want to have an all new team. We're gonna have a clean slate. We're gonna do things, the Vrabel way, and I feel like Vrabel should know like having some locker room guys. Like Bentley was a multi-year captain.
Yeah.
You don't just release a multi-year captain like that. In my honest opinion, like they might be doing it just be like, hey, we don't need you anymore, but we'll let you sign with whoever you want in this free agency, which is one way to put it. But I do think for this like new team, like he would be striving because he's one of our better people, especially when healthy. He's like one of like the top linebackers in the game. But when it's compared to like when he's not healthy, then that's tough. But he's still one of those veterans that you have that's like, hey, this is the tone, this is how we set it, and we're gonna get the job done. In terms of like the linebacker room. So
Yeah.
that kind of sucks, but I do get it. Um, but we did sign Stephon Diggs, and I'm finally happy because we have a receiver that's not Mac Hollins as our number one.
A legitimate, like top of the league receiver, too.
Yeah, like 3 years, $69 million contract with like what 26.5 guaranteed.
Yeah, which is going to,
Um,
depending on how they dish out the signing bonus and all that, you're not, hopefully not looking at a $30+ million cap hit, but we'll see there.
I mean, The cap hit was the least of my worries. They
Yeah,
did say that the ACL and his lack of 1,000 yard seasons played into the contract he got, but he still seems excited to still be here. He's back in the AFC. He's back in the same division as Josh Allen, so it'll be cool to see him. And he did say in his press conference that Drake May has similar qualities to Josh Allen that he likes.
he does.
And I like I said, you give Drake May was a Lamborghini in a trailer park. Great quarterback. It's just unfortunate he had no one to pass it to.
Yeah.
And now that Stephon Diggs got that contract, he got signed. All the receivers now are like, "Oh man, we've been working hard. We're out here. Let's get ready." I'm like, "What the hell? What are y'all doing? Y'all should been posting this before he got signed."
I mean, we talked about it a while ago, but I mean, I felt like, and I think you agreed that the Patriots had a lot of receivers on their roster that were like twos or threes, but they were asked to be ones. So if you go out and you get a legitimate number one to be that guy that defenses focus on, then you have some guys on that roster who could step up and have very good seasons being the second or third option. So I think this was honestly the best move any team's made all off season so far. I mean, not just bias, but the Commanders getting Laramie in there is probably up there depending on how he performs this season. But I think this was like the perfect fit, perfect move scenario for any team out there.
Definitely, and it's gonna be crazy to see like who does play the 2 and the 3 now. I believe in Matt Collins. I think he's a great receiver in his own right. He's also on the Bills. Go figure. We're like the New England Bills at this point. Uh, no, I do like Matt Collins. He has a great personality. He's a weird guy, but he's definitely very talented. And I do think he's ready to get some more work than what he was getting in Buffalo. Uh, Jalen Polk, he was a rookie last year. Had a down, wasn't really a good year, but no receiver had a good year last year. So I mean, take with it what you will. But I do think he is talented. I do think he deserves another shot. I know we're still trying to trade Joe Milton. I don't know what's going on with that anymore, especially with how this draft might go. I don't know who's going to want Joe Milton.
That's to say, I think I told you this a while ago, but I think that that is potentially a draft night, draft day trade, or a team maybe they don't get their guy, or maybe they decide they need a quarterback competition. They go out and they make that trade. Day two or day three, maybe.
Because I still firmly believe he is that guy. It's just unfortunate that we have Drake May. If we
Yeah.
didn't have Drake May, Joe Milton would be starting up and down the field. But hopefully he gets dealt somewhere where he can actually get a chance to start and perform. Another big one is Kavant. And I am just bad with these names. Uh, Chasen and Schwetzer, both one linebacker, one offensive lineman. We
So
signed
Wes
Garrett Bradbury.
Schweitzer came from not last season, but he was in Washington for quite a few seasons. Very good player. Not the best offensive lineman in the league, not the best guard you're ever going to get, but definitely a guy that if he is out there, you don't have to worry about him too much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and O line is definitely something I'm glad that we're stacking up on a little bit earlier rather than later because I do want to have Drake May not have to worry about getting sacked all the time. Granted, he's not going to get sacked a lot anyways. He's very elusive as a quarterback, and he get the ball away quick enough. But I really just don't want to see him with a bad offensive line to where it's like, okay, well now I got to rush the ball out, and my receivers don't have time to get open or perform how they should. And I do think that signing Schweitzer as well as
Morgan
I think
Moses.
Morgan Moses. Yep.
That's another good pickup for you guys. Getting up there in age has had an issue because that's another ex commander. And then he went and played for the Jets for a handful of seasons. That's another guy who he's gonna get you a few flags. Don't get me wrong, but very quietly, always been a very top 10 to 15 level offensive tackle. So I actually really like that pickup for you guys, unless the age finally starts to catch up with him. But he's a guy that played 166 total games. He started 158 of them. That's very, very
Very solid.
consistent for for an offensive lineman.
Yep, and we got Spillane and Milton Williams for as unrestricted free agents. We signed Josh Dobbs. I don't know why.
Mhm. I think that's they're
The
anticipating
Pasternak's
making a
just
move
whatever.
from Milton.
Yeah, but even still, I'd rather have like Kyle Allen or something than Josh Osborne.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
And then the rest of them are, the couple linebackers and Christian Ellis and Curtis Jacobs, tackle Caleb Jones, linebacker Andrew Parker Jr. and center Leticus Smith. The center is a big one for me.
Yeah,
I do think I think with the new center, we're going to have hopefully a top 12 offensive line in the league. I don't know about top 10, but top 12 would be serviceable for me
that'd be a big improvement.
because last year wasn't good, but we weren't good. So it kind of just was like swept under the rug how bad we were. But with Vrabel as a coach, I do think he does see things a little bit differently than a lot of other coaches would in terms of like the lines and the defense. Because you saw what he did with the Titans, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, how that line was able to pretty much hold back anybody. So I do think he knows what he's doing, and I have no choice but to trust him.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just glad that he actually signed a receiver. Now, what that scares me about is that we might not get Travis Hunter. Might.
So it's interesting. Your two biggest moves, in my humble opinion, were at the spots that he plays, because you also brought in Carlton Davis, who's a
Yep.
top notch cornerback.
Right. I thought I mentioned him. That's my bad.
So you got Stephon Diggs, top 5 wide receiver potentially, and then you got Carlton Davis, top 5, top 10 level cornerback. Both of those
So
are the
Christian
positions that
Rodriguez,
Hunter plays, and you also have Gonzalez. Uh,
Christian Gonzalez. Yeah.
so I still think an NFL team isn't going to want Hunter playing both positions. Just wear and tear, injury related issues, and it's one of those things where it's not the correct term necessarily, but jack of all trades, master of none. If you're playing both positions, you can't really 100% focus on one or the other. Can you really master it? Can you really be a top level wide receiver, a top level corner? So, yeah, I see what you're saying there. But then you have either other options at other areas of need, rather that's in the trenches, rather that's trading back and picking up some good picks out of it to further bolster the roster. It's going to be a very interesting day for you guys, which is actually perfectly bleeding into our next topic here. Where, with how free agency is shaped up for you guys, I know, dating back to the season and definitely towards the end of it, you were hard pressed on wide receiver being that pick. Where are you sitting at now? Same, different?
Well, it's tough now because all the off-season moves have pretty much been made for the most part. Yeah, we could still sign, whoever else. We still have a lot of money left in the draft capital. But in total for like the next 3 years though, we spent like $355 million
Damn.
on the all the people that we've gotten. So we spent a pretty penny to make sure that we actually have a chance to succeed these next couple years. But other teams that are scaring me are like the Browns. There's been rumors that they're trying to trade for Dak Prescott that I've seen on
Hmm.
Twitter.
That'd be interesting. I don't know if the Cowboys
Um,
make that move, but that'd be interesting.
and Cam Ward, he pretty much performed really well at his pro day. Um, Shador's going to be that guy, but also New York, they also picked up Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson in the same week. So
Yeah,
it's
that was
it's hard
hilarious.
to it's hard to tell who we actually want because I know a lot of people are going to say it's Vrabel. He's going to want Abdul Carter. Carter could go early as well. He can go to the Browns. but getting Travis Hunter would still suffice me. It's just going to be tougher now that we have other receivers. Because if we draft him, we'd have to put him at the two, put Matt Collins at the three, and then let Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Polk, and whoever else fight for the rest or
I was like,
trade him
man, because
away.
Matt Collins is a big body. You can have him out there on the outside with Diggs and have Hunter in the slot just eating middle linebackers alive and safeties up alive. You know what I mean?
But like you said with the whole like wanting to play two positions thing, like we don't I don't it's kind of hard to tell like what room we would have on defense for him now. Consider like I know
Slot
we could
CB.
put
He could be double
but
slot. Have
could but
Gonzo and Davis on the outsides with Hunter on the in the slot. You know?
some play the three CB and then also the three receiver. See
Yeah.
how he does there.
Because I
It
mean,
could work, but I don't know. It's just a tough spot now seeing all the uh other teams' moves that were made.
yeah, and that's why it's fun to do the before free agency draft talk and the after free agency draft talk because a lot of your we got to do this in the draft needs could potentially get filled before the draft. Because I'm kind of in the same boat where I think we both wanted wide receiver with that pick. I was also like CB, but I don't know if there's any like surefire top notch CBs. But even if there were, we're picking 29th. So we wouldn't be having a crack at those guys anyways. Looking at where we're at now, Commanders off season, I don't think wide receiver is the move. Terry, Debo, I mean, potentially Gallup. There's a lot of bodies in there where you're not gonna go out and get one of the best wide receivers in the draft at 29. And we've coughed up a lot of picks recently in these trades. I think we're down to like 4 or 5 total picks in the draft. So I think the Commanders are actually probably the biggest team likely to trade back out of the first round, and maybe try to accumulate an extra pick or two out of it. Um, but right now, I'm looking at CB, safety, and even still O line because Sam Cosmi is out for, I mean, he tore his ACL in Detroit. So he's most likely not going to be ready at the beginning of the season. I mean, not even most likely. He's not going to be ready at the beginning of the season. So you're kind of stuck at right guard. There's some potential where, so we had a rookie out there at left tackle last season, kind of rotating with Cornelius Lucas, who Lucas signed elsewhere as well. So now you have Laramie to come in and solidify that spot. So there is talk of moving the left tackle over to right tackle, which would shift Andrew Wiley from tackle to guard, which debatably is a good move for him. So there's some wiggle room, out there with the Laramie signing, but you're still in a tight spot at guard. You still don't necessarily have the right tackle position locked in with anybody that you know is going to go out there and be a legitimate franchise level guy. Um, so yeah, we could make that move there. Um, it's going to be an interesting draft for both of our teams, and it's going to be a really interesting draft in general. I'm excited for the draft for, I don't want to say the first time in a while because I knew we were getting a quarterback last season, so that was a pretty exciting draft. Um, but speaking on the draft, we are going to be live, you and I, during the draft, so that's going to be fun. You guys, we get to see our live reactions and chatter as we go through the first round. And I watch the entire draft. I don't know if you're available all 3 days, um, but absolutely at least round 1, 2, maybe. So yeah, I think this is going to be one of the more interesting drafts in a while. I do. Because there's a lot of questions and what ifs and all that good stuff. Not just for us, just for the entire, I think, top 10, really.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild because a lot of what I'm seeing right now in these mock drafts with
They're all over the place, man.
they are because now I'm seeing Ginty go to 6 to the Raiders. to
So
pair
funny
up with
enough, I'm glad you said that. I don't mean to cut you off, but before I
Higgins.
forget it again, that's actually the guy that I would want out of anyone in the first round. I don't know how. I mean, obviously he's not falling to 29, but if they could find a way to go up and get him, that would be insane. Because running back is a big question mark for us, even though I like Brian Robinson.
Oh shoot! I mean, even if he fell, he would be have to go down to like Cowboys at that point, which is like number 12. So it's gonna. I don't see him being like falling anywhere like that. Now you could jump up in the like the second round or whatnot, get like a Scataboa or something.
We need a home
That's
run hitter.
actually in my mock draft right now. It shows that at 61, you guys are gonna supposed to get Cam Scatabo.
I wouldn't hate it, but again, we need like a home run hitter. We need a speed guy.
Yeah, Brian Robinson still has some speed to him.
Yeah, he's underrated in that people think he's just tank. He's a power back, but he's got some wheels, but he doesn't have like the upper echelon level. He doesn't have the, Jameer Gibbs level. That's kind of what they're looking for at running back.
Yeah. To be fair, he also got shot, so
That is true.
you got to put that give him a little bit of grace with that part. But he's still, for getting shot, he's still 50 centing it out there, putting up
Oh yeah.
numbers.
Oh yeah. I like him a lot. I just think that I think the team thinks that they need an upgrade at that position.
Yeah, but the shelf life is also very slim for running backs nowadays
It
too.
is.
So you gotta, I feel like you kind of just gotta take with what you get and then go off of it. Not everyone's gonna be like a Saquon Barkley or a Josh Jacobs or a Derrick Henry,
Yeah.
but if you get some at least like serviceable, like like a Kyron Williams,
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Which you can find
But
those guys all throughout the draft.
oh, 100%. I do think there are a lot of running backs that are actually really good in this draft
This is a good running
that
back
I've
draft,
seen.
yeah.
Obviously, your edges, O line, D line, and corners and quarterbacks are going to go like bananas off the shelf. But there are a lot of better running backs in this draft that I'm seeing rather than like the past like what 4 or 5 years.
Oh yeah, this might be the strongest running back class, like in terms of how many options there are in I couldn't even remember the last time really.
It's been a long time since we had a good running back draft. So this is a crazy draft in terms of like the mix of players that are going to be wanted. Like Genty and Hunter and Shador, Cam, Abdul, like just a bunch of different positions. Mason Graham from Michigan, TD Ora. It's just like a plethora of like different positions that are like well sought out of that a lot of teams are really going to be looking for. Like the Bears, even with their high pick, they're going for an offensive lineman. It looks
Yeah.
like and Will Campbell.
It's one of those drafts that I think is very deep, but it doesn't have a ton of high end talent, which is really good for a Commanders type of team, but it's not so good for the New York Giants, if you know what I mean, who need game
Yeah,
changers.
definitely. And currently on the mock draft I see right now, they're slated to get Shador, which I don't think that makes any much sense because it's loaded on two quarterbacks. Why get a third,
Yeah, I
especially a
think I
rookie?
think their moves at quarterback indicate that they might not be taking one. I don't know. It's like you said, it's just weird because Jameis Winston is a legitimate backup, a guy that can do spot starting duty, and Russell Wilson is arguably a starter. That's you could say, oh, he's cooked past his prime. I don't think he's at that point just yet. Um, but he's too. I think he's too good to be a legitimate two. So what you're gonna have a rookie and then you're going to have Russell Wilson behind him and Jameis Winston as your third. It's a lot of money to put into a quarterback because there are a lot of names on the quarterback roster. You can always cut somebody like Winston, of course, but I don't know. We'll see what they do. That's why I say it's going
Exactly.
to be such an interesting draft. The Giants might be looking more towards next year's draft. Funny enough, because we haven't even had this one's, but we'll see there.
I know Drew Lock was just he was just on the Giants last season.
They've been rotating so many guys in and out of there. They don't know what they're
And
doing.
because he had that 5 touchdown game too,
He did.
which I would imagine made him pretty much solidified as a at least a backup still for them. or at least a solid trade piece. But I don't know what's going on in the Giants camp. I don't know what they're doing. All I know is Malik Neighbors is going to have one hell of a quarterback to catch the ball
Future
from.
commander.
Think so?
I mean, I would like to. I hope so.
I don't
Ooh.
know. I think he's going to get paid by the Giants for even has a chance to sniff Washington.
Yeah, I don't think that they're gonna let that guy go. But obviously, he wants to go play with Jaden Daniels, so we'll
But
see.
who knows? Maybe in the next few years, you guys will get like one of the top receivers either in the league or in the draft, and be able to build off of that.
It's unfortunate. I've never been in this position before, but when you have the guy at quarterback, bearing an injury, knock on wood, hopefully he stays healthy forever and ever and ever. Um, you really don't get a chance at those top picks anymore. So you kind of either gotta hope somebody falls or really nail a late round gem.
I know the Colts are a team I think of at quarterback because they just signed okay, Daniel Jones, and they're
Future
going to
Hall of
have him
Famer.
compete with Anthony Richardson, and it's like if Richardson isn't going to be doing good this year, then who is going to do good for him for the Colts?
Yeah, I've heard, well, I don't want to say I've heard, like I got sources with Pat McAfee show where he kind of made it sound like they're not so high on Richardson anymore, which I don't feel bad because that was a no duh situation to me. The dude was 50%, 52% accuracy in college. What did you realistically think was going to happen in the NFL? Obviously, all the raw tools are there. He has a cannon, the legs are there. I didn't expect him to be injury prone like he is. Um, but he was a guy that you had a lot of work. Yeah, he needed a lot of mechanical help and he needed proper coaching. And, they thought they were going to get the Josh Allen type, another guy that was like 50% accuracy in college or something really crazy like that. But those Josh Allen's a really rare breed. Guys that are that inaccurate don't typically clean it up. Um, so if I'm Indianapolis at 14, I'm not taking a quarterback. I'm gonna try to coach my guy up because I do like Anthony Richardson. I like all the tools, but if you don't really, really lean into him and make sure he has everything he needs to succeed from a coaching standpoint, then yeah, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get him to where you want him to be. I mean, we're looking at the top end of the draft here: Tennessee, Cleveland, New York, New England, Jacksonville. Those are your top five. Two of those teams have their quarterback in place. New England, absolutely, with um, Drake May. And Jacksonville is teetering the line where obviously they have a guy, Trevor Lawrence, they paid a big money extension to a year or two ago. But I have not seen anything from Trevor Lawrence that screams to me that he's this generational guy he was supposed to be, or even close to it. He's not bad. He also plays in Jacksonville. So there's that. But Tennessee, Cleveland, and New York all could very well be in the mix for a quarterback, even though we just talked about the Giants potentially indicating that they might be out of the quarterback running. And then after that, I mean, the Raiders, the Jets, the Panthers. The Panthers might like what they have in Bryce Young, but the
The
Saints,
Raiders got Geno Smith.
they did. But I mean, is that that's not going to stop them from taking a quarterback, especially if a team like the Giants skips out, because then at that point Tennessee and Cleveland are the only two that are taking quarterback ahead of potentially the Giants. So there's two guys that everyone's in love with, Shador and Cam Ward, but there's always that third or fourth quarterback that teams also like. So if the Giants skip out on quarterback, the Patriots aren't taking one, the Jaguars aren't taking one, the Raiders would have their pick of QB3 if they really believe in a guy. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting indeed. I think the Patriots are definitely going to go O line, D line, or trade. I think that's what
For a
they're
number
looking
four
at.
pick.
Yeah.
You don't think if Abdul Carter's up there, Vrabel's not going to grab him
That
for the edge?
I kind of consider edge D line. That's why I kind of said that.
But other than him, I know Mason Graham is another standout.
I'm just thinking of with a top 5 pick, those are usually your top 5 picks are usually what? Somewhat on the line, so and usually an edge rusher, not a DT. Um,
Yeah.
O-line, typically a tackle, wide receiver, and quarterback. And I don't see them taking a quarterback. Wide receiver is questionable. Travis Hunter would be a very, very good pick still, I think, for the Patriots if the Giants don't snag him. Because again, their quarterback moves indicate they might not be taking a quarterback. So if Tennessee and Cleveland go Shador and Cam Ward, or if Tennessee trades out, I've heard that rumor as well. Um, the Giants are the big question mark for you guys. And like I said, their moves at quarterback should scare any Patriots fan that wants Travis Hunter. Because they need wide receiver help with Neighbors, and they also don't really have any cornerbacks that
Yeah,
are
they don't really.
really, yeah. So
But
he
they did just pay Darius Slayton.
They did. But that was one of those moves where I loved it because it was stupid. But I mean, he's a good player, but he's not a guy that would prevent them from drafting someone, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about the Bengals finally signing T. Higgins and Jamar Chase after feels like forever?
I am actually thoroughly surprised that they re-signed T. Higgins, especially to that much money. My two biggest free agency targets for the Commanders were T. Higgins, didn't happen, obviously, and Chris Godwin, also didn't happen, obviously. Um, so I like that for them. My only issue is now what? Because your O line's still kind of some dookie,
Trey Henderson still needs to get signed.
and they're asking for so much that nobody really wants to trade for him. And I mentioned earlier that, without the Commanders making a move for like a Trey Henderson or a Miles Garrett, I really wouldn't even make the move for Trey. Why? He's not really that great at stopping the run. He's not bad, but he's not elite. He's a very good pass rusher, and he's 30 years old, and he's going to be very expensive. That's just not a guy that the Commanders should be. That's not a guy that I think a lot of teams are going to target. That's like a guy that maybe a team like the Eagles would target. Surefire Super Bowl contenders signing a guy like that, trading for a guy like that, excuse me. How many of those teams are really out there and the Eagles don't need a guy like him? I think they're stuck with him and they don't have the money to pay him. I mean, they do. You can always make the money work. That's
Yeah.
what a cap guru's for. But I think they shot themselves in the foot with that one. I do. I think they
I
should
still think
drop their asking price and try to trade him.
T. Higgins could have signed for a lot more money anywhere else. That's just how I've always felt about that because he looked like he was going to get paid.
I mean,
Like
he
I'm not saying
still
he didn't get.
did.
I'm not trying to say like he didn't, but like he could have got like I do think he could have got like 30 mil a year from like somewhere else.
What's he sitting at? Like 25? It was like a 4 for 100 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 4 for 100, be like the highest paid wide receiver too. But then Jamar Chase like, no, he's a 1A.
Yeah.
Like no,
Debatable. I think
he's a
he's a
wide
2
receiver
though.
too.
Yeah. Cuz like you go put him in Washington, he's not better than Terry McLaurin. He's not better than Stephon Diggs. He's definitely a 2, not necessarily a 1A.
A 4 year valued at 115 mil.
Yeah, so he's probably sitting at like 25. Again, it depends on how they structure signing bonuses. You give a guy a 20 million signing bonus and that's less than $100 million left on the contract. So that wouldn't quite factor out to 25 million a year. And you can front load it, back load it, so
Average annual salary of a 28.75. So I mean, pretty much. But man, I feel like I still feel like he could have got more coming to the Patriots. He could have got more going to hell, even like a bottom tier team like the Raiders or the Cardinals or just anywhere else. Now, obviously, with it comes, are they going to win or not?
pressure.
But T. Higgins is good enough for that. But at the same time, it's a double edged sword because even though he's not paid like Jamar Chase, Chase is still going to be the one getting the targets. He's still going to get all the looks and whatnot. And not a lot of teams can cover two top tier receivers at once, like you would see with the Eagles
Yeah.
with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. You can't guard both of them at once on top of their running back.
I think in terms of it, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to T. Higgins, I'll explain myself. I think that's the biggest flop contract of the offseason and potentially in a long time. And here's why. Is he worth that money? Absolutely. But I don't think it's going to translate to winning games for the Bengals. And they paid so much money to two wide receivers that while they can still make moves, because again, you can always find something to do with the cap and make it work, they really limited themselves to what they can do in free agency now. So you're looking at the draft. And when you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback, when you have Jamar Chase and now T. Higgins back on board as well, you're too good with the bearing an injury, knock on wood. I don't want to see anyone get injured. You're too good to get a top flight pick. But you also have put yourself almost in cap hell paying about $250 million. Wait, what was Jamar Chase's? It wasn't 170, right? It wasn't that much,
It
right?
was, it was like 4 years, 141.5.
Okay. So you're paying almost,
Highest contract in league history.
yeah, you're almost paying 300 million. You almost owe $300 million to two wide receivers.
Oh, I'm wrong. It's 161.
Okay, so it was that's what I don't know why 174 was in my head, but that was way too high. So yeah, you really are essentially paying almost $300 million over the next 4 years to two wide receivers. That's quarterback money. That's insane, you know. Um, so that's what I mean. I don't think that T. Higgins is that big of a boost for them. They already had him, and you see how they did last year. They didn't even make the playoffs. They probably should have. It was very close.
Barring probably like one of like top 5 worst defenses of the year.
But exactly, and like the O line, there was a lot. They have a
They
lot
didn't
of
even pay him.
holes.
That's the crazy part is that the Bengals didn't even pay anybody until like last year because Jamar Chase was supposed to get the big contract. He held out, then just said, "You know what? I'm just going to play on it." Put a big bonus of insurance on himself, barring an injury or whatnot, and he gets a triple crown. T. Higgins has like one of his best career years, and after not getting paid, so it kind of was like the Bengals could have got them for a lot cheaper last year, but they played around with it too much, and now it's like, oh well, now we got to pay him. And
Yeah,
then they tried pulling off we're gonna franchise tag T Higgins again, and the whole league was like, why are you guys doing that? Don't do
make your
that.
mind up.
That is they're in like a lot of league execs from like 20 plus teams are like, this that's just a bad look, not from a organization standpoint, but from like what if you're gonna do that to one of your top players, and it's like really like, do you really just not trust them that much, or do you really just like want them to fail?
Yeah,
Which is gonna want a lot of other people to be like, yeah, we're not doing this. So I'm sure like Higgins' contract played a factor with Jamar's contract as well, because I'm sure Jamar was like, all right, we gotta stop playing the games. Then let T Higgins have another great year. It's gonna cost the Bengals a lot more money that they can't afford. So I do
yeah,
feel like that they just kept digging a deeper and deeper hole, and I think this is kind
exactly.
of like
They did.
this is the deepest that the hole can be dug, and now they got to figure out how to put some more dirt back on that hole and start building.
And
Because
that's I think you summed it up perfectly. That's exactly why I said I think it's the biggest flop in a while, where they didn't sign a guy they didn't have. So you can't really say it's a needle mover. They just prevented themselves from losing a key piece to what they already had, which wasn't all that special, if you know what I mean. Um,
yeah,
they're very middle of the pack team. So it was interesting. It was an interesting little situation, but one that, as you
uh,
said, they dug themselves into.
yeah. I hope this other teams take notes of that and just be like, hey, look, if we have our guy, let's kind of maybe like
Pay
sign him a little
him.
bit early. Let's sign him a little bit earlier so that way he doesn't triple crown us and we'd have to pretty much go out of our own pockets to keep this guy.
Absolutely
'Cause
agree.
Jamar Chase did deserve it. He is one of the best receivers in the league.
Oh yeah,
Like him and him and Justin Jefferson are like, and CD Lamb are the easy like 1, 2, 3.
I don't know about CeeDee Lamb.
Obviously the 1, 2 being
There's a lot of
flip
guys that
flops.
take over CeeDee Lamb, but that's just me.
There's a couple I would think about too, but it's just hard to deny some statistics with him.
I'm taking AJ Brown. I'm taking Terry McLaurin. I'm taking Stephon Diggs. I'm taking all those guys over CeeDee Lamb. Very good receiver, but I don't think he's the best receiver in football. Top 10.
Oh, that not without question, top 10. Um, but
But
yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this topic and probably the rest of the episode.
real quick, because we are at an hour 40, so yeah, we do need to wrap it up. Way too early predictions. Commanders have obviously their divisional guys twice, so Philly, Dallas, New York. We also have Chicago, Detroit, Denver, Las Vegas, Seattle, Green Bay, Kansas City, LA, the Chargers, Minnesota, Miami, and Atlanta. A couple of these teams we played last season, Chicago, Atlanta. We will do a more in-depth version of this right after around training camp time. But I'm thinking 9 to 10 wins for this Commanders team next season, which should still be a playoff team. But I don't see them hitting the 11 to 12 mark. I really don't. The division is always going to be interesting. I think they're better than Dallas. I think they're better than New York, but division games are always funky. I think they're better than Denver, Chicago, Las Vegas, and Seattle, and then Atlanta as well. And then I don't think they're better than KC. Green Bay is going to be a good game. Minnesota is going to be a good game. The Chargers game is going to be a good game, and Miami is going to be a good game. So yeah, 9 to 10 wins for this team as is before the draft.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't know. I think you guys are slated to win 11. I think you guys could win 11 to 12 this upcoming year. Barring no injuries and whatnot.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, divisional games are always a toss up. Yeah, we beat the Lions, but it was what 45 to 31, and they had 90% of their defense on injured reserve. It's a completely different team you're going to play here in the regular season, and they're going to want their get back for knocking them out of the divisional or the divisional round.
Some Eagles
Denver,
players aren't still there too. Some of the Eagles are gone.
that is true, but Denver is a top flight defense with an decent offense, and the Commanders are a complete flip flop. They have a top flight offense with no defense. So I mean, if Denver's defense can lock up, that can be a game that they can easily lose. I'm not worried about Seattle or Las Vegas. Miami is another game that's a toss up. Minnesota is a good game, depending on how the quarterback situation plays out. Green Bay is going to be a good one, as I said. Kansas City's probably the better team. And then same with the Chargers, where our secondary, as is right now, is our weakness, and Justin Herbert can light a secondary up. So that's where I'm at with it. What do you think about the Patriots season coming up here before we completely end it here?
So we got the Falcons, Bills, Panthers, Browns, Dolphins, Giants, Jets, Raiders, Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, Saints, Jets, Bucks, and Titans.
Damn. You
I
got
said
you
Jets
got
twice.
some teams that I think you're better than, but you also have some heavy hitters there with the AFC North.
Yeah, the Bills are always going to be good, but who knows? Maybe Josh Allen, his plan of I'll just run through everybody won't work this time because he's not passing the ball. I don't know how their team's going to play this next year since he won MVP.
Yeah.
He just got paid too. He just got that big contract. But I don't know the receiver situation either. Because also we have Matt Collins, but I don't know how much more incorporated they're going to have Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir. If Josh Allen's going to be more of a passing quarterback this year rather than a running quarterback. Um, I do see a lot of good teams that we can beat. I don't want to beat the Jets sometimes because I do want Justin Fields to succeed, but no, we gotta beat the Jets. Um, I do think we are capable to win 9 games though.
Yeah.
I think 9 is a good it's a good start. It's a good precedent setter just to say like, hey, if we can exceed this expectation, we can make the wild card and hopefully just win a wild card game. Not saying like we're gonna win a Super Bowl by any means necessary, but we have a strong defense now,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's gonna get even stronger with Vrabel.
and a
Like if we
legitimate offense.
a very legitimate offense, like this isn't like having Ryan Tannehill at the helm. This is a Drake May. This is like a Josh Allen esque kind of player.
I agree.
You know, it also we got Diggs. We're probably gonna get Travis Hunter or
Potentially a
whatever
game
lineman
changer
that draft we get.
regardless. Hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna be fine. And this the couple easy games I see on the schedule are the Falcons, the Giants, the Jets, Dolphins, and possibly the Steelers.
Yes, especially if it's
Now
Aaron
I
Rodgers.
yeah, if Aaron Rodgers is that quarterback, then it's whatever. And I don't have to worry about DK or George Pickens because they're gonna get themselves ejected out the game. So I do think 9 wins is kind of the goal I do set for the year. I would hope 9-8 is good enough. Hopefully, maybe I'll go crazy. Say we could go 11-6.
Funny enough, I actually fully agree. I think the Patriots are my sleeper team coming into this season with all the big moves they made and having the guy at quarterback. And yeah, 8 to 9 wins was actually what I was thinking. Coming from a 3-win team, that's huge.
Yeah. Uh, I think the Raiders are a sleeper team for me. I like Pete Carroll. I do think Geno Smith is that guy. And pairing him back up was a
Yeah,
bad decision for that the league let happen.
and they do
So I
have
do think
probably the best tight end in the league.
yep, Brock Bowers is my guy. Raheem Mostert signed with them, and if they get Ashton Genty, that running back core could be deceiving.
That's why I'm excited to revisit this topic here after the draft round training camp time for sure.
And Max Crosby got that paycheck too.
He did. I like him a lot.
So that's definitely how I feel about the Patriots. So I do think we will like 9 wins would make me happy. Just be on a positive, be on the
Yeah,
upside of things, and really get
potential
this
playoff
dynasty back
team, and once you
rolling.
hit the playoffs, anything can happen. Look at the Commanders.
Shit, if we make playoffs, I don't want to say we're playing with house money because we spent a lot of money, but we're making it worth our bucks.
For sure. But all right, yeah, that's a nice episode. One of our longer ones. Like I said, we missed 3 weeks, so we had a lot to talk about. So thank you all for everyone that tunes in, and we will catch you guys for sure consistently again next week.